Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 2 of the violin neck replacement project. Okay, so at the time of recording this video, it's actually several weeks since I recorded the first video, albeit for you, they're just days apart. I started this project several weeks ago and have had to put it on the back burner because of all the other work I've had to do. You know, obviously with the teaching still, and you know, the tumbler laser engraving jobs have been coming in thick and fast. I've been doing quite a few of those. You see, I've got a nice display up on the wall now for some of them. Not engraved, just just to show what I've got in stock, and I've got some others on a display in the front window as well. So I've been doing quite a bit of the laser engraving, and you know, various other things. I've also been you know, clearing out most of the guitar shop. So I've now got 2 music rooms built and ready to use, albeit one still needs all air conditioning. And I've got all the guitars and, you know, accessories and things in the front part of the shop. So there's been quite a lot of work around that, and obviously customers as well coming in and buying guitars and messaging me, and it's been hectic busy the last few weeks, which is good, obviously. But it's meant that I've had to put this violin project on the back burner for several weeks. I'm not sure how many, may even be a couple of months, I'm not sure. But as for you, you know, it's just a couple of days since the first episode, and you'd seen me remove the fretboard from the neck, which turned out to be hollow plastic and utterly useless. And off camera, I have managed to remove the neck from the body. Obviously, doing this kind of job, it's always a little bit traumatic, and there's bound to be a small amount of damage. I mean, if we look at the heel of the neck itself, it does look quite a mess. It looks as though they've used probably super glue or hide glue to glue it in, and you know, I had to pry it out. But the violin body itself escaped relatively unscathed. I mean, there was a little bit of chip out here and there, and you know, had to glue a couple of tiny pieces back in, but I managed to save this. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to call it heel tab, which is on the body itself. There's no cracking there, you know, not even the finish is split. I managed to save that, which is really good, because that would have been difficult to repair if I damaged that part. And the pocket itself is quite good. I said I've had to re-glue some little strips of wood back in it, but it's pretty good. And I'd started to make a neck. So, you know, I've kind of roughly cut out the neck shape. I mean, if we just compare that to the old one, I mean, it's, you know, it's very similar shape, albeit, you know, still needs a lot of work. And even just to get to that stage, that probably took me, you know, an hour or two. And it's obviously nowhere near finished. You know, there's a lot of work to do on that still. But then I got to thinking, this is a cheap violin. I'm not going to end up selling it in the shop, because I wouldn't get anything for it, because it's, you know, it's a cheap, nasty violin. So I've decided we're going to keep it for use in the music rooms for students. Doesn't matter if it gets, you know, chipped and knocked about, because it's a cheapie. But once I've, you know, put this thing back together, it will be a usable instrument. Whereas with that plastic neck on, it was a toy, a wall hanger, absolutely useless as a violin. So as I said, I got to thinking about this. It had already taken me a couple of hours to get to this stage, probably, and to do the rest of it, we're talking several hours, you know, to get this carved into shape. And I thought, why? What's the point? Why don't I just buy one? You know, because there's a lot of work to get this into shape, and it could go wrong, and I may have to start all over again. So I decided, sod that, I'm going to buy one. And I did, and here it is. The neck and fingerboard came together. This is all wood. Not sure what wood. It should be maple, but I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So yeah, I bought this one, and measuring it up. Let me just, with the old one, just reattach the fingerboard. So comparing the two, everything seems to be right, seems to be perfect. It all matches up absolutely perfectly in every way. This cost me a couple of $100, about a fiver, $6 or $7 thereabouts. I mean, nothing. And it arrived in a couple of days, so I've had this for a few weeks as well. And if I just kind of place it into the violin body, it goes in nicely. Even the heel tab matches up pretty good. But it is a little bit loose in that pocket. It's slightly smaller than the pocket. That's okay, I can fix that. That's a pretty easy, well, it's an easy fix, but quite time consuming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue shims on this edge of the heels. I'm going to glue some shims on there, and then kind of sand them down so that we get a nice tight fit into the neck pocket of the violin, because at the moment it goes in there nice, but it's just too loose. So I'm going to attach a couple of shims on here, very thin, and then sort of shave them down until we get a nice decent fit. I've got this little strip of wood. I've actually peeled this off of an old guitar bridge backing plate. So it's good quality wood, and it's very, very close grain, and it's very thin. So I basically sliced a layer off of a bridge backing plate of an old guitar. Now, excuse me, I've measured the thickness of this, and it is under 3/4 of a millimetre, or under 30 thousandths of an inch. So it's thin. Believe it or not, it's still way too thick. But that's what you want to do. So I'm going to cut a couple of pieces of that, to glue on the end of this, both sides, as shims, and then shave it down to fit. Not yet. So when this arrived, the fingerboard was attached to the neck, but it didn't look as though it was very well attached. So you know what a stickler I am for, gluing, especially fingerboard to neck, and I think even more so on a violin because of its tininess. I'm going to use that as a word. So I pulled the fingerboard off. It came off easily, no heat or anything required. And the glue on the neck surface and on the back of here was terrible, just like the neck into the neck pocket. It was terrible. So I'd scraped it all off, and I've sanded it down nice and smooth, and I've done the same on the neck. And off camera, obviously it was all off camera, I've also put my locating pins in here and here, and drilled the holes in the back of the fingerboard. So we've got one, where am I? Here. Yeah, there's a hole there, and there's another one there. So those are the locating holes, those are the locating pins for when I glue that back on. Also, when this came, it was rough finished. Well, not really rough, but not smooth. So I've given it a bit of a sanding with 600 grit, just to sort of knock off the worst of it. But I'm not going to do the final sanding yet, because I'm going to be working on it. It's going to get marks on it and all sorts of things. So it's sort of semi-prepared, but it will need some really fine sanding. In my opinion, violin necks need to be as smooth as possible. I mean, properly smooth. because of the nature of the way they are played, you know, which is similar but not the same as guitars and the like. So, you know, if we look at the original neck, yeah, it's plastic, but it's the same kind of, it's finished the same kind of way as any normal neck would be, where you've got the stain on the heel and on the headstock, but not on the neck itself. That is usually left there because, you know, with this finish, your hand's a bit sweaty, it can get sticky, and that's no good for movement. So what I'm going to replicate that. So I'm going to stain the headstock and the heel, similar to this but tidier. And then the neck itself, I will simply use boiled linseed oil. And in this case, I will make sure I wipe off all of the excess, you know, completely. Probably do that 4 or 5 times to make sure it's really, really smooth. But obviously we're nowhere near that stage yet. And as I said in the first episode, the body itself of the violin, it's pretty unmarked. I mean, there might be a few tiny marks here and there, but you know, it's really in pretty good shape. And it's not going to be a problem, but maybe a small issue is matching the colour of this stain. Now, I do have some water-based wood stain this colour. I've checked it against it, it looks really close, so it's going to be good enough. As I said, this is going to be a student instrument, not for sale, you know, or not for a customer. It's a student one, so it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be playable, which I hope it will be when I'm finished. So, I was thinking about the order of, you know, things I have to do on this, and, you know, attaching it to the body, etc., etc., and the staining and all the rest of it. And I do think it's going to be absolutely fine to attach the fingerboard to the neck now. You know, because there's just very little to it really, apart from the, you know, ornate shape and curving around here, which is not going to be affected by the fingerboard anyway. You know, it's not really much to it. And I think it's going to be just as easy, if not easier in some aspects, to work with it, you know, as one piece. So, that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'm not organised. So, first of all, I need to gather some clamps together. I've got my wood glue here. I'm not going to use my roller, because it's just small and fiddly, and it's going to be just as easy to use a paintbrush. I might use the roller, I don't know yet. But I need to get a couple of clamps. I'll probably get away with 3 clamps. So I'm going to use these ones, which I normally use, just because they're easy to use, although they are starting to wear out. They don't always work. I also need to get some leather pads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and come on, one more. There we go. 6. Okay, so I've got some leather pads as well to protect the wood of the neck and the fingerboard. So let's just put the camera down a bit. I'm going to switch my light on. How's that? Oh, blinding me. Okay, so okay, I'm going to zoom in just a bit, not too much, because autofocus doesn't focus. Okay, so as I said, I have the locating pins and the locating holes already. Let me turn that light down. Oh, I'm blind now. Already sorted. I've got my glue, I've got my leather pads, I've got my clamps. Time to do it. Time is okay. Actually, before I start doing that, no, I'll talk about that afterwards, don't worry. Okay, so let's start with getting some glue. Actually, let's just see where the neck ends. Where the neck ends on the fingerboard, and I'm just going to draw a line across there, so that I know not to glue any further than that. Okay, that line is, well, it is easy to see. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting some glue on the back of the fingerboard. So I think you know what I'm going to say at this stage. You want a very, very thin layer of glue, but 100% coverage. That is the most important. So yeah, quite a thin layer. We don't need a lot. I don't want too much glue squeeze out, and also you really don't need a lot of glue. If you've got well prepared surfaces and you use good glue, and you know you get the 100% coverage, you really do not need all that much. Less is more. So I'm just going to go up to almost up to that line. Okay, so that's good on the fingerboard. A nice even 100% coverage, but very thin. That should be good. Just make sure I get to those edges. Okay, put that aside, and the same on the neck. Might need to drop more there. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, I think you know, with the alignment, these pins and the holes in the back of the fingerboard, it's essential really. You can clamp them together without it, but you know, almost always it's going to move. The better prepared your surfaces are, the more they're likely to move apart when you try to clamp them with the glue on. So these locating pins and holes are essential for these jobs. Okay, so that's the glue on the two surfaces. So now I'll just put them together and locate those pins, which is right there. So I'm just going to grab a bit of tissue. I'm just going to squeeze this together by hand, first of all, just to get out any glue squeeze out. I don't want any left on there if I can help it, because they're okay. You know, I will be cleaning it up afterwards, but the better I do at this stage, the less cleanup I'll have to do, which is always what you want. Just another squeeze, and it's still squeezing out. So A, I know I've got enough coverage, and B, I know I've got, you know, decently prepared glue surfaces. That's always good. Shows I'm doing my job right. Okay, quite happy with that. Right, so let's get the clamps on. And as I said, you know, again, these leather pads are very important. Both of these woods are quite soft and they will easily mark if you don't protect them. It's open enough. Let's open that a bit more. How are we doing for time? We're doing fine. Right. So let's get this one in place first. Check that for alignment before I squeeze it down, and come this way a little bit. Go across there. Okay, that's looking good. Give that a bit of a squeeze, and already there's glue squeezing out. So let's clean that up now. Okay. Let's get one. Actually, I'm going to do the middle one next, just to eradicate any chances of, you know, the thing warping or twisting. Shouldn't do, but you never know. Okay. That's looking quite good. Again, there's a bit more squeeze out, so get rid of that now. Okay, I'm looking for spacing. Yeah, that's about right. Actually, that one is going to be, because you've got this flute here and the effectively the nut there. It's going to be a bit tricky. Hadn't thought of that. Should be fine. Probably don't want to put too much pressure on there though, because I don't want to damage the nut and I don't want to damage this flute on the back of the headstock, so I have to be a bit careful with the pressure I put on this one. Obviously it needs to be enough to, you know, to clamp them together, but not so much as to risk, you know, chipping that wood. Yeah, it's fiddly, a bit awkward. How's that looking? Not too bad. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. More squeeze out. Let's clean that up. I'm going to struggle to get to that bit at the front, but this should be alright. Okay, so let's just get those clamps clamped down. I mean, you definitely need, you know, to make sure you've got enough pressure to squeeze them together so that they're going to join together nicely, but you don't need to really crank down on them. You know, if you've got your surfaces prepared properly, you've got the glue coverage right, you need enough pressure to make sure they're squeezed together and squeezing out the excess glue, but not so much that you risk, you know, doing untold damage. Because the wood of both of these is pretty soft, as I said. Right, I'm really happy with that. That's gone together really nicely. I'll just see if I can get in there to remove that excess glue. And this clamp on the end here feels a little bit loose. I'm going to try and get a bit more pressure on that. That's it, that's got it. Okay. Right, so that's the fingerboard glued to the neck and clamped up. Oh, yeah, that's enough. Got a little crack there. It'll be fine. Right, so I'm going to leave that to one side to set up. I'm running out of time, so I just want to show you something else quickly. So, these, let me just turn that on. These are the original, wait a minute. Sorry, okay. Right, so these are the original tuning pegs from the violin. And just like everything else, they're plastic. Now, I did really want to use as many of the original parts as possible, but there are two problems with these original tuning pegs. As I said, they are plastic, and I don't think you get the right friction from plastic for them to, you know, hold still, hold in place. I have a feeling they might keep, you know, popping loose. I just don't really trust plastic for, you know, for friction fitting under tension. So that's one problem. The other problem is I lost one of them. So I've only got three. Now I do have other tuning pegs. I've got a set of these ones which are just a tiny bit long, just a tiny bit longer than the originals, probably 4 or 5 millimeters longer, maybe a little bit more. About 5 millimeters longer, and obviously they're a different colour. The original ones are black, these are brown, and all of the other hardware, I'm going to say, on the violin is black. Is that a problem for a student instrument? No, not at all. So I've got this option, and you know, they are wood. Now I've got another set in black, okay, but if I just put those up against the original, I don't know how well you can see it, there's quite a lot of difference there. They're a good 10, 12 mil longer. I'm not sure that the head of the button, if you like, is that's the bigger one, is slightly bigger as well. But then again, it is on the brown one too, slightly bigger than the original. But again, it doesn't really matter. I've also got these. These are viola tuning pegs. These will be no good. They're basically almost double the length and quite a bit thicker too. So obviously they're no good. But you know, I've got the option. These are the original. This is the original one. I've got these brown ones which are a little bit longer. I've got other black ones which are quite a bit longer. So really, I've got the option of